Wonderful.
Senator, if you were sitting in the White House right now, what specifically would you do in order to deal with the Islamic threat throughout the Middle East? Islamic State specifically.
Yes, a terrific question. What would I do in the White House right now to deal with ISIS? We need a clear-eyed commander-in-chief who, number one, sets the objective, and the objective is not to weaken, it's not to degrade ISIS. It is to utterly and completely destroy ISIS. They are the face of evil. They are crucifying children. They are beheading Christians. They are lighting men and women on fire in cages. Now, when you set that clear objective militarily, what would be required? Number one, we should be using overwhelming air power directed at taking out ISIS in every location. Number two, we should be arming the Kurds. The Kurds have long been our allies. They are on the ground. The Peshmerga, the fighting forces for the Kurds, are effective soldiers. They're right now fighting ISIS, right now today. And they're hopelessly outclassed in their weapons because ISIS is using American military equipment they seized in Iraq, and the Obama administration refused to fund the Kurds, instead sends weaponry to Baghdad that won't pass it on to the Kurds. Now, there is a debate going on right now about boots on the ground. Now, my view at the outset is any military conflict, particularly extended military conflict, should begin with a congressional authorization, or even better, a declaration of war. On the question of boots on the ground, I don't think that should be decided by a bunch of politicians in Washington posturing one way or another for political effect. It should be driven by the military necessities of accomplishing the goal of destroying ISIS. So based on the advice I've received from senior military leaders, the Peshmerga on the ground, armed effectively with overwhelming military force and perhaps some embedded U.S. Special Forces, can at least begin to carry out that task. What is missing, though, let me describe an exchange I had with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff last year. I asked him, I said, if the objective were to destroy ISIS in 90 days, militarily, what would be required? And he said, well, I'm sorry, that's impossible. That cannot be accomplished. I said, okay, General Dempsey, perhaps that time frame is unrealistic. You tell me then, in what time frame can we destroy ISIS, and what would be required to do so? His answer was, there is no military solution to this problem. The answer is to change the underlying conditions on the ground so people are not susceptible to being radicalized through poverty. Now, with all respect, there is a word for that, and I'll clean it up for C-SPAN and say it's simply nonsense. The way to defeat ISIS is not expanded Medicaid throughout Iraq. The way to defeat ISIS is a simple and clear military objective that the leaders of ISIS and the soldiers of ISIS who are waging war on America, we will destroy them. And I'll make one final point in terms of what we need to do. Last year, I introduced in the Senate legislation called the Expatriate Terrorist Act. Roughly 100 Americans have traveled to the Middle East, have taken up arms and joined ISIS. The legislation I introduced that said any American citizen that does so, that takes up arms with radical terrorists and declares jihad on America, forfeits his or her citizenship. Just this week, we apprehended an Ohio man who traveled to join ISIS, to train with ISIS, and came back to America to wage jihad, to blow up U.S. military facilities, and thank God we caught him. But it is lunacy to allow terrorists waging jihad to come into this country with U.S. passports. And we should come together to prevent it. Thank you, and God bless you.
It's great to have you here. Thank you very much. Very much. Perfect job. Perfect job. I think we're going to ask you to take a step. These guys are going to follow.